So what is DevOps then, in your opinion?
What I will give a definition so DevOps is the combination of the culture, philosophies, practices, tools that increase an organization ability to deliver the applications and services at high velocity. Now, there are various definitions. This is one of them. But what I believe what DevOps gives to us is the basic three fundamentals or the three principles. The first one is the DevOps methodologies. And second is the DevOps technologies. And the last and the most critical one, which I've been practicing and I'm ensuring that anywhere where I go and where I'm talking to the team and everyone understands this DevOps shared ownership model. So the biggest change in any other previous software models or development models like waterfall or anything, and the DevOps, the change comes in the shared ownership model, that you actually start sharing that ownership and bring an end-to-end team together, and the whole team is responsible for taking and designing, developing, and taking to production, and even also after it is live in production, maintaining it. That's the critical path here.
I know that Spark have been going through a bit of a transition, especially when I first came to New Zealand about 2 years ago, and they adopted the Spotify model, the agile practice. How did this kind of new practice influence and affect DevOps and your chapter?
Is initially we had single teams, as I mentioned, then you have become end-to-end squads. So one of the major thing and the transform and the requirement come through when it has moved is that you need, now you have made the teams which were able to build faster and have the capability to deploy, but now you need to enhance on the testing perspective. What does that mean is you have a lot of other teams, many more teams now, which is having required an end-to-end environment. So that's where we started building the end-to-end environment capability and testing as a service, where we say that, so I will say test environment as a service. So what does that mean is for a particular squad, you will just pick and choose from a catalog that I am going to build these systems, and these systems can be stubbed. So it actually build an environment for you. It has a mixture of containers. It has some mixture of the VM based one. It has stubbing over there, some database masking comes into the picture, and all the stuff happens. And the magically it builds an environment for you and provides that, where team can deploy their changes and test it before they merge it to the integration environments where all the other squads are also pushing before even go to any pre-prod staging or UAT environments. So that was the major change altogether, not only in the way, the culture perspective, as well as the technical perspective, that we had to invest a lot in building those kind of capabilities where we were able to provide those environments to the team so that they can test their changes and can proceed further.
How you as a leader within the DevOps team have navigated the transition from monolithic architecture to microservices, and some of the challenges that you faced from that side of things. Can you just take the audience on a little bit of a journey about how you kind of navigated that?
We started working on that transitioning from the monolithic applications to the microservices, and we picked the very first one is our integration layer, where we started working around taking bits and pieces. And it is, again, this is something which has to be understand again in a way that it is not going to happen in one day. I mean to say, if you start thinking that today you take it up the monolithic and okay, you decide that I want to convert into the microservices, is not going to happen. So you have to plan it properly, because any application which is running in the last 10 years, it is quite stable. And if you're touching it, you have to ensure that you're building equally a stable system. And you are trying to gain more agility and flexibility to deploy and all this stuff. But at the same time, you don't want to ensure, or you want to ensure that your operational things are working fine as it was before as well, with minimal impact. So you have to start planning out. So what we did is, at the same time, we started planning out, this is our targets for this quarter, this many services, we will take it into the microservice one and building it. And and this journey still continues, to be very honest. And it's a long way. Because as you know, the Spark is it's enterprise having a lot of applications, and I can't, like, you can imagine any of the applications, and we will have some instance running somewhere for serving some purpose. So all those scenarios, so actually trying to cover all those things and ensure that you have a same way of mechanism or the performance as well. So that's where you start planning out picking up the system. So we picked up the integration layer first so that we can actually do the changes on the fly when it is required, because that was the system which we thought that it is changing quite frequently. So, and then we picked up the front-end layer and all those things. So it again, as I mentioned, journey still continues.
Can you just explain to the audience what a container is?
So the very first thing is that containerization is a form of an operating system virtualization itself. So it's nothing. It's just like if I give a VM to you and you spin up your application over there, and that's where it's a virtual machine. Just a second.
Oh, we've got some technical issues. Come back, Ankit, eh? you've been sat so still for so long.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the same place, and some IoT devices kicked in, and it is happening.
No worries, you're back. You're back. It is a fascinating area. I was doing a little bit of research a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, it is a fascinating area. So SDN, it's something which is certainly we can spend a lot of time talking about. You touched upon there about the introduction of 5G and security. Just the final area that I do want to touch upon and just pick your brains about is around the 5G and what, if anything, Spark have been doing to prepare for that and make the network and what you guys are doing over there more secure, and around kind of DevSecOps and maybe what DevSecOps is.
According to me, DevSecOps is nothing. It's just a process or an effort where we want to secure by default. So we want to ensure that whatever we are doing is in a secure fashion, on the secure way, and we're following all the secure practices and all those things. And the another question I'm being asked, and it is sometimes it's weird, but being asked, why do we need to follow the DevSecOps and why there is a need for the DevSecOps? So
I bet you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, okay, still I keep on discussing and say that because as I mentioned before, with the CI/CD and the continuous delivery, continuous deployment model on the DevOps model, there is no phase or there is no stopping. Actually, there is no way that you can stop for an auditing perspective, and you cannot spend months to do a testing on the pen testing on a particular thing. And that's not only the one problem. The second problem is now the development is happening faster, and you have end-to-end teams sitting over there. So you have more to test. That's the main thing here. Actually, you have a lot more to test, and have to ensure that people are, you have to ensure if you're doing the manual testing, still manual security testing, you have to expand on the resources. And at the same time, it is time consuming. So that's where we need to ensure that we follow the DevSecOps practices. Make security as well also as a part of the ownership with everyone, like as in everyone's responsibility is to ensure security. Starting from a designer perspective, like an architect who start working on a design and start thinking about the requirement itself, or anyone, they start thinking about what is actually it's going to impact. What kind of security area we should start looking around. And as well as in our sprint plannings, we do involve security people as well, security experts. So they give advice on that, what kind of security area we have to start looking around, where we have to start investing on the security perspective. Do we need to spend time on the pen testing on this one? Do we need to do this kind of testing? And all the stuff, they give it out there. So that's a very good starting point for the DevSecOps to start understanding where the security requirements are coming from.